Yesterday, he had
Okay. Okay.
a gold sparkly shirt complete with a huge gown with it looked
Yeah.
like dragons all over it. It was
You
quite
know,
interesting to say the least.
I I saw him in a play once here in New York City, and he can really sing. He has a great voice. I also ran into him at a gym that I work out at, and at the time he was more masculine looking. Now he looks emaciated. Looks like he's trying to, I don't know, look like a woman. I don't know,
Say,
but
it wouldn't take much to look more masculine than he did last night.
right. But that outfit, a friend sent it to me. I'm like,
All right, guys, welcome to another edition of the magAMedia podcast. I'm here with Rob Harper, as always. How you doing today, Rob?
I'm doing just fine. How are you, Andy?
Doing great. News over the weekend was President Trump relieving Vindman and his brother of his duties, escorting them from the White House, and then Ambassador Sondland also getting relieved of his duties, despite trying to beg President Trump to keep him aboard. Looks like President Trump is starting to clean house of the Obama holdovers. I think it's great. And what do you think of the decision by President Trump, Rob?
No, I think it's long overdue. I mean, it's unfortunate that those guys were allowed to stay, but we got to remember that when Donald Trump was elected, he wasn't politically connected. So he had to leave a lot of these people in place that were leftovers from Obama, from Bush, believe it or not, as well as Clinton. So when he came into office, he couldn't just say, I'm going to fire all these people, as Obama had done when he was elected after George Bush #2. So he had to leave them in place. Little did he know that these people were going to be working against him. We would think that for the love of country, despite political differences, if they would do their jobs, but they weren't trying to do that, especially Alexander Vindman, who was, by his own admission, approached by the Ukrainian government for a high-level position, not once, but 3 times, and he bragged about it during the House impeachment hearings. So he had no choice but to let this guy go. I would have let him go right after he gave his testimony, but of course he had to think strategically, because had he done that, of course the House would have said, "Oh, he fired this guy. Let's throw that out as an impeachment issue as well, or article." So it was long overdue. But I'm glad. I'm hearing that he did go to the Pentagon for another position. I think really he should have just been relieved completely, kicked out of the government altogether.
Right. I think he almost deserves a court-martial for being subordinate to his military position. Seems like he is more concerned with being a political activist than he is an officer in the military. Guy was a complete disgrace during his testimony.
Yeah, I agree. And then for the Democrats to come out and say, "Oh my God, this guy is a hero," and even Joe Biden during the debate on Friday had suggested that the people in the audience that were attending the debate stand up and give this guy a round of applause. I'm thinking, are you serious? Is this where the country has gone? That they can't recognize that this guy legitimately was trying to overthrow the government. I do believe that he is one of the whistleblowers. Sorry about that. That he was one of the whistleblowers, along with Eric Sermali.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then it's also being reported that President Trump is clearing house of over 70 more national security advisors that were Obama holdovers, which is some more great news. Just time to go off to a fresh start. The 2020 election's coming around, and hopefully President Trump will not have these traitors in his administration the next time around.
Exactly. I think that he needs to clean house. As he said from day one, he was going to drain the swamp. And I don't think people really took him literally, or they understood what he was saying. There are a lot of people on the Hill, in the government, behind the scenes. Some were elected, some weren't elected, some got the job because they applied. But they need to be removed from those positions. And one of the things that Trump had done when he was elected, I think during the first year, he made it easy so that you can fire some of these officials who aren't elected officials, but apply for the job. It's very difficult to get rid of government employees. But if you're not doing your job, and if you're working against the administration, something that I would call treason, I mean, you should be removed. If you don't like what the administration is doing, then get out. I mean, these people seem to think that, I am the protector of the government, so I'm going to work against this president. It doesn't work that way. You're there to serve. You're there to do your job. And if you don't like doing your job, get the hell out. As simple as that.
A lot of hero worship of Mitt Romney and his supposed brave decision to vote to remove President Donald Trump from office.
Right.
But President Trump, in typical fashion, has been on the offense, attacking Mitt Romney and also Senator Joe Manchin out of West Virginia. President Trump was very displeased with his vote. What do you think of President Trump attacking Mitt Romney? Do you think it's well-deserved?
I think it was well-deserved. I think that the President Trump's address and at the White House to all of his supporters, when he did a complete dress down of all the hypocrites that were around him, he called out Adam Schiff, said he was crooked, that he was a nasty person, he was a mean person, as well as Nancy Pelosi. Mitt Romney did himself no favor. I mean, this guy seems to forget that when he ran for president in 2012, the media hated him. They attacked him because of his book, notebook that he had of women that he would put into different offices. They attacked him for putting his dog on top of his car when he was going on a family trip. They attacked him for saying that Russia was one of the hugest threats, and now we see that it is. So for him to do turncoat style and then attack President Trump and say, in my conscience and according to my religious belief, I have to vote to convict. I'm like, don't bring up religion in this. And I find it interesting how people always seem to bring up religion when they're about to do something that is really diabolical or evil. Look at Nancy Pelosi. I pray for the president. We should pray for the president. You pray for the president, yet and still you are pushing impeachment, yet and still once he was acquitted, you're going to go out and say, but he's impeached for life. How is that praying for the president? What does that say about you? And that is
she prays for him, but I doubt she prays positive things for him.
Exactly. And that is one of the reasons why a lot of people are turned off by religion, because you have these hypocrites who go and hide behind the skirts of religion when they're getting ready to do something that's really evil. I mean, these same people were attacking President Trump during the Super Bowl because he was enjoying himself and singing the national anthem. They were saying, oh my God, how dare he? But I'm thinking, why are you guys so concerned about the national anthem and how he's behaving when you don't want the national anthem performed and you'd rather everyone get on their knees in protest? Mm-hmm. So the media doesn't call these hypocrites out. So back to Mitt Romney, I think he gave Mitt Romney a justified undressing. Mitt Romney should lose Utah. Should he run again? He should lose it completely because the guy is a complete jerk. He's just trying to get back at Trump because Trump didn't make him Secretary of State, and rightfully so. So my message to Mitt Romney, get lost, dude. You're a loser, a complete loser.
Absolutely. And it seems like Mitt Romney's decision really forced Joe Manchin's hand, because when Mitt Romney went against President Trump, Nancy Pelosi went to Joe Manchin and said, you cannot vote to acquit President Trump now, because... Right. They wanted to make it look bipartisan in the Senate and not bipartisan in President Trump's favor. So
right.
It seems like Joe Manchin was the big loser. He just kind of looks like Nancy Pelosi's puppet after all of this.
Exactly. I'm really disappointed in Joe Manchin. I thought he was a person of his word. I thought he was a person of conviction, but now we see that he isn't. It was as if though Mitt Romney gave him that little outing that he needed to vote to convict. Joe Manchin, in his heart of hearts, know that this entire thing was a complete ruse. It was a complete coup trying to overthrow the government. And even the senators that were saying, well, we felt that the president did something wrong. We felt that the House, they did present their case. They presented a very solid case. No, they didn't present a case because they didn't have a case. And the things that they were impeaching the president on had nothing to do with Ukraine. So to say that they had a case and they made their case is BS. It's hogwash. You can't obstruct Congress. The only thing these guys had to do was to go to the courts and say, hey, compel these individuals to testify. Compel the president to get us this information. Now, it would have been stuck in courts for some time, but to say that he obstructed Congress, that is the reason why we have the branches of the government. It's like, wake up. And then abuse of power. What was the abuse of power? In the Constitution lays out the powers of the president. So to say it was an abuse of power, knowing that when the next president comes along, if we ever get a Democrat president, and hopefully we won't, the same thing will happen to them, and rightfully so. And that person should be impeached, and rightfully so, because now the Democrats have just sullied impeachment, and they're making it as if though you can go to the ice cream shop and say, hey, I want to order 2 cones, and I want impeachment in one, and then I want the articles on the other. It's like, look at what these people have done to our government. It's unbelievable.
Right. Last week, we also seen Nancy Pelosi rip up the State of the Union address, and it seems like it's almost caused a ripple effect. Earlier today, I was reading about how Susan Collins is getting death threats for her vote. We just seen Trump's people registering voters in Florida. Their tent was smashed with a van from an unhinged leftist.
Right.
It seems like it's the old Maxine Waters get in their face. That just seems more and more unhinged. Nancy Pelosi is the leader of all of this.
Right. And what is the liberal media saying about the guy who smashed his van into Trump supporters that were registering to vote? Nothing. It's almost as if though they're complicit with his actions. Had the tables been turned, they would be talking about it right now. This is because of Donald Trump. This is because of Donald Trump. No one is saying that guy smashed his van into those Trump supporters because of Maxine Waters, the vitriolic coming from her mouth, Jerry Nadler, the lies that he's telling, Adam Schiff, and Nancy Pelosi. They're all responsible for this, just like they're responsible for the senator who was shot during the baseball game. No one wants to say anything. They want to say nothing about it. But it's like, this guy was shot, the senator was shot because of your doings. It's like, come on, because of what was coming out of your mouth. And then Nancy Pelosi ripping up the speech. I found it really interesting how the media were praising her and saying, oh my gosh, she's a badass. Oh, she was showing him because there was nothing in there but lies. No, she was ripping up the successes of our army, the successes of black people, the successes of women, the successes of our country. And now, full circle, she's going out to Facebook and Twitter, social media, and demanding that they remove the clip. She reached out to this guy, Andy Stone. She had one of her operatives to say, oh, this is like another doctored video by the president. And the guy responded, really? So you're saying that didn't happen? We have it on tape. Everyone was watching. Right. Nancy ripped up the speech. Granted, it was her own copy. Granted, nothing illegal about it because it was her own copy. She didn't rip up an official document, but still her actions to do that. I mean, and she did it with such contempt. She knew the cameras were on her. She should come out and apologize. As Jonathan Turley said, she should apologize or resign. Where is the liberal media? Had Paul Ryan done the same thing when Barack Obama gave his speech, I mean, we would still be talking about it. He's a racist. How dare he? All Republicans are racist. Your actions have consequences, and Nancy Pelosi should be held accountable. And because the media won't do it, can't do it, are afraid to do it because they're in bed with her, I say to our patriots, in November, let's go to the polls and vote them all out.
Absolutely. We posted a really great video clip from C-SPAN of Democratic voters after the State of the Union that were just furious with Nancy Pelosi and thought her ripping up the State of the Union was a complete embarrassment.
Absolutely.
So she did not do herself any favors, or the Democrats running for president any favors with her behavior. It just made the Democrats look lowbrow and desperate. But speaking of them running for president, we've got the New Hampshire primaries tomorrow. Coming out of Iowa, we think Mayor Pete slightly won. I think the results are finally official out of Iowa here a week later. Sounds like Mayor Pete won with Bernie coming in at number 2.
Right.
So far, Bernie's polling at 30% in New Hampshire, and Mayor Pete around 22%, and Amy Klobuchar and Elizabeth Warren are actually both polling ahead of Joe Biden at this point. Do you think this is New Hampshire is desperation yet for Joe Biden? If he falls outside of the top 4 in 2 states in a row, that cannot be good for him.
Well, no, it's not good. And just a couple of things for Iowa. And what separates Pete and Sanders is like probably a 0.5%, if that. I do believe that Bernie probably came ahead of him, but of course the Democrats, as they always do, try to doctor records and whatnot and change things up. But this is indicative as to what will happen in November, so we've got to keep our eyes on it, because do not doubt that come November, they're going to screw up the elections. They're going to find votes that were in someone's truck, find votes that was in someone's grandmother's closet. I mean, this is typical of Democrats. They will find votes wherever they can, and then they will say, oh, by the way, we found some more votes, so we've got to count these votes also. Now, going into New Hampshire, and Joe Biden. Joe Biden was just heard the other day calling a woman, I think, a dog-faced pony soldier. And Democrats say, oh, this is why we like Joe Biden, because he's so authentic. Like, are you serious? Calling a potential voter a dog-faced pony soldier? And not only that, he got into an argument with another journalist as to what she was saying if he didn't win in Iowa. Joe is a lost cause. And that is the reason why Obama has not come out and said anything to help his friend out. He's a lost cause. The other day, I think it was Saturday, Joe came out saying that he has a speech impediment. He stutters. Now, I don't know if he does, he doesn't, but I've heard him in a lot of different speeches in his younger days. And to me, he was pretty straightforward and articulate. Well, maybe as he has aged, dementia has settled in, and maybe that's the reason why this certain stuttering has presented itself. Now, again, maybe he's a stutterer, maybe he isn't, I don't know. But to use that as an excuse for all of the mishaps that he's had in his speeches is ridiculous. Because if he's so afraid of his speech impediment, then how can he be the president? So his low showing in Iowa is pretty much an indication that people feel that he's old, he's out of touch, and they don't want another old, grumpy, confused white man leading the party.
Right.
So with him saying all this stuff, well, you know, now he's trying to brush off New Hampshire. Oh, I don't know about New Hampshire. Wait until South Carolina, because in South Carolina, of course, he will get, so he thinks, a majority of the black vote. Maybe that will happen. But I would say to voters, look at how he's brushing off Iowa. Look at how he's brushing off New Hampshire. He's pretty much telling you that he could care less about you. So if he doesn't care about your votes during the primary, do you actually think he's going to care about you and your home if he becomes president? He's just going to brush you off and placate to those big states like New York and California, the larger liberal states. He's going to placate to them because he feels that, hey, they'll get me where I need to go. And not only that, let's throw in Bloomberg as well, who has completely dismissed Iowa, completely dismissed New Hampshire, and he's waiting for Super Tuesday because he feels that, hey, I've spent a lot of money, I'm paying for influencers, I'm paying for people to say they like me. What does that translate into? He's paying for votes. So again, the Democrats are really savvy, and you have to look at what they're doing and what they're saying. Pretty much, they're writing your votes off. They could care less about your votes. They only want their votes. They only want the votes that's going to help them get over the hump. Once they have the vote, everyone else be damned.
Right. Joe Biden's main argument was that he was the most electable of any of the candidates. I think he's benefited from the old former vice president push. Generally, former vice presidents do pretty well in presidential campaigns. So, but I think that's all disappearing now that he's not even finishing in the top 3 for electability. It's how are you supposed to be the most electable when you can't even finish in the top 4 of the Democratic?
That is a good point. How can you be electable if you can't finish, within the top 4? I mean, this guy's at the bottom of the totem pole. And again, it is so interesting how the media, they're so careful as to how they present this. No, they do push back on him on some things, but the way they should go full throttle and just say, Joe, isn't it time that you just call it a wrap and just exit stage left? Why won't they just tell him that? Because there's a certain fear that if Bernie gets it, it's going to be over because no one is going to vote for socialism. We have James Carville coming out against Bernie Sanders, saying we can't reinvent the wheel. It's like, folks, wake up. This is fairy tale land. We have Obama secretly sending out operatives saying the exact same thing. So therein lies Bloomberg. And the only reason why the Dems will look at Bloomberg because they don't like him, but the only reason why they will look to him is because he has a lot of money. And they need money. They need money so that he can run ads all over, as deceptive as they may be, lying about what he will do and what he can do. The guy won't even come out and campaign. He's afraid. It's like, I really want the voters to wake up and see what's happening. You have one man who they tried to kick out of office because what did he want to do? Make America great again. Turn the economy around. And the economy has been turned around. Look at the job numbers. So you have them wanting to get rid of him. And it's interesting how they say, oh, the economy is so bad. There are so many people that aren't working. I'm like, what economy are they talking about? Some third world country? I'm sorry. We're beyond that. We're not in Mexico either trying to let the illegal immigrants come in. So it's just astonishing at the narratives that the fake news media is pushing that the economy is bad when you saw Friday's job numbers were unbelievable. Look at the stock market. It's unbelievable. What possibly can Bloomberg do besides tear it all up, rip it to shreds, like Nancy Pelosi ripped to shreds the State of the Union speech? It's unbelievable.
One more question on New Hampshire before we move on. If it ends up being Bernie and Pete in the top two again, like the polls are indicating, do you think it's a two-person race, or do you think Bloomberg is still going to be at play and it's actually a three-person race here?
I think Bloomberg's still at play. I think that, and I could be wrong, and I hope that I'm not wrong, but I think Buttigieg will plateau after New Hampshire. When he goes into the other states, he doesn't have the black vote. And if he does show a showing with the black vote, we know that it's deceptive. We know that someone cheated. Mm-hmm. Blacks cannot identify with him, and he can't identify with blacks. Look at South Bend, Indiana. It's a complete disaster there. So how is it that this guy is being pushed out? Well, I'll tell you how. It's money. He run all these ads saying that, oh, I'm Mr. Pollyanna, and I can do this and I can do that. And people not doing their research, falling in love with an ad, allowing their emotions and not their pocketbooks to vote for them. It's like, people, wake up. This guy is dangerous. The only thing he wants is bragging rights to say, okay, I was the first gay person to be nominated in a two-party system. And then if he becomes president, which I doubt seriously, I was the first gay president. I'm not into this first this or first that. I want the most accomplished person, the most qualified individual to be president, to lead the free world. Not this old hokey pokey stuff. That's just a distraction. So no, if he wins New Hampshire or if he comes in second place, I think that'll be it for him. Because as he progresses to the other states, no one knows him. And the people that do know him, they don't like him. Now, Amy could possibly be a contender. They're writing off Elizabeth Warren. I think it was over before it started for her. I think she's a bunch of hype. But I do see, what's his name, Bernie Sanders probably inking this out. Now, go back to what you're saying about Bloomberg. If Bloomberg does manage to have a showing in Super Tuesdays, it's all because he bought the elections. And I don't think people literally voted for him just to vote for him. I think he might have said, if you vote for me, I'll give you a free pizza. If you vote for me, I'll give you $100. That's how Bloomberg operates. He will give to causes just to get people to do what he wants to do. And people need to be aware of this. This is the way the man is. And you would think the media would call this out, but they won't, because of course his company, Bloomberg, which is a media company, they won't report anything negative on him. CNN certainly isn't going to do it. So who are we left with? Fox News? Fox needs to jump on board and start calling this guy out. A lot of times I think the media wants to see these matchups between these different people, and they want them to fight, as opposed to looking at what's good for the country.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think if Bloomberg ended up being the nomination, I think it would be safe to say no one has ever worked less to become the Democrat presidential nominee. I mean, like you said, this guy took Iowa off. He's taken New Hampshire off.
Yeah.
He's not even really doing rallies. He's just, his whole appeal is on spending hundreds of millions of dollars of his own money on commercials.
Bingo. Right. And like you said, he's not even doing rallies. He's not even meeting the people, because if they were to show him at a rally or at a meet and greet, there would probably only be 10 people. So of course the media wants to hide that. They don't want to talk about it. Look at New Hampshire. Look at the people that are outside right now waiting for Donald Trump to give his rally. It's phenomenal. But yet and still the media is saying no one likes him. He's not being supported. He's at 49% approval rating. And I think that if he stays tempered the way he is, that number will increase. But be assured that the media is going to throw everything out at him. Well, women have got to remember that, he doesn't like women. He's a misogynist and he's a that. Whereas, what is Bloomberg? Bloomberg wanted to fire a woman because she was pregnant, or women because they were pregnant. So he's buying the election. He's giving everyone a lollipop and saying, hey, here's your lollipop. Now vote for me. And then they will stand there to make certain that they vote for Bloomberg. Whereas he has dismissed a huge population of voters because they're irrelevant as far as he's concerned. He's going to buy everything else. It's like, folks, wake up. Look at what these people are doing. And that is a form of socialism, what he's doing. I'm going to buy the vote and then do what I want to do. It doesn't work that way, folks. This is a democracy. And you need to wake up and be aware as to what's happening.
Absolutely. Rob, you are a New York resident. I'm sure you've seen this. TARS now,
Yes.
the police union are now boycotting Mayor de Blasio, saying it's a war on policemen.
Right.
Just the destructive culture there with the New York and police officers. I think this all started during Barack Obama's administration.
Bingo.
What's it like there? Have you heard anything?
Well, not too long ago, there was I think about 2 weeks ago, there was a protest by Antifa. They were going to flood the subway systems in protest, believe it or not, police officers in the subway to prevent crime. Now, the way it is now, you don't see a lot of police officers in the subway, but the few that are there, they need to be there. In addition to that, where they are, they're strategically placed in different areas whereby there is high crime. And unfortunate, and I know a lot of people aren't going to like this and might not agree with it, but the high crime areas are in the Black and Hispanic communities. Let's just be honest. Be honest in order to solve the problem. Now, when Giuliani was the mayor, he was able to eradicate a lot of that crime, and it went down. But it required putting police in those strategic areas. So now, come along, Bloomberg. Bloomberg did the same thing, because he saw that it was working, and blacks were appreciative because they saw that the crime went down in their communities, the communities where they lived. They didn't have all the violence that was there. Okay, along comes de Blasio and his wife, Charlene, whom I think is the co-mayor, and he decided, we don't need this. We need to get rid of some of the police officers. We have too many police officers. And if some of our listeners and readers will recall, right after he was elected, there were killings of, I think, a police officer in Brooklyn and across the nation. And Barack Obama was still in office. So again, he precipitated a lot of this stuff because he himself felt that, police officers, they're bad. So you saw the crime, the animosity between the police and the Black community. It was just on an all-time high. And blacks weren't the only ones, I must say, being affected by this, because there were a few whites also. I think I remember a situation in Arizona whereby a police officer had harmed this white guy. So, but proportionately, it was police officers against blacks. Barack Obama turned his head. Then comes de Blasio, he and his wife, Charlene, and then they decided to come up with all these crazy new laws, including Andrew Cuomo was part of this. So as of January 1st, 2020, a law was passed that, if you arrested someone, some of the crimes were considered, misdemeanors. And if you brought them in, they would have to be let go. You could not hold them. There was no bond for them. So in the case that took place this weekend, the guy who basically tried to ambush 2 police officers in Brooklyn, apparently, so I'm told, had been arrested and then released. And then he pulls this stunt. So I think the police have a right to protest de Blasio. And when he's coming to the hospital beds of these officers, they have a right to turn their backs on him in disapproval to let him know, we don't like you. Now, he's serving, I think, his second term as mayor. People say, well, if they don't like him, how is he serving a second term? You've got to realize that New York is New York City, that is. Outside of New York, there's a different story. But a majority of the votes come out of New York City. New York City is extremely liberal. They will cut off their nose to save their face. They see crime is all around them. They see the crime is in the subway. They see the crime is coming back after being gone for almost 20 years. They won't say anything. You'll actually have some liberals saying, oh my gosh, I wish Times Square was the way it was 20 plus years ago. 20 plus years ago, you could get killed in Times Square. Now, Times Square is family friendly. You can go and you can walk around. But that bad element is coming back. And if you look across the nation at these large cities, Who's at the helm? Liberals with their liberal policies. And they're dumbing down the laws. Why are they dumbing down the laws? Because they say that it's not fair. Who is it not fair for? Well, it's not fair for minorities. No, listen carefully to what I'm saying. They're saying that it's not fair to minorities. Okay, now, if a minority is saying that the laws aren't fair, why would you go and commit a crime? If you perceive that you're not going to be treated justly, why commit the crime? Why not just obey the law and you won't have to worry about it? But instead, we're saying, oh, commit the crime, and then we're going to lessen the penalty because, you're going to commit a crime. It makes absolutely no sense. So I went a long way to answer your question, but I felt our viewers need to have this background as to what has been transpiring in New York and all these other cities. So my opinion on it is that we need to get rid of de Blasio. We need to get rid of a lot of these liberal mayors, a lot of these liberal governors that are over these cities because they're not helping minorities. They're hurting minorities because a lot of the crime is in the minority communities. And if you get rid of the crime, if you bring the police in, the police will make certain that it's not there. Now, yes, there are some issues whereby you have a few rogue police officers. And whenever they do something rogue, it's all over the news. But you're going to have that in any organization because these are still human beings. But what you also need to have is you need to have effective laws to protect the community. Plain and simple.
Yes, it all comes back to the resentment that President Obama put in a lot of the black communities.
Absolutely. And what did he do?
And what were against him? He
right.
basically endorsed Black Lives Matter and their disgusting rhetoric towards cops. Fry them in a skillet, eat them like bacon. Just disgusting chants that the Black Lives Matter did to cops. And I still think that a lot of the divisive rhetoric we see today is coming from President Obama's reign.
Yeah, his 8 years in office is coming from him because he didn't say anything against it. Remember once he said that a police officer who had arrested this author, Bill Gaines, I think his Gaines, I can't remember the first name, they had said that he called the cops, he said they were stupid for arresting him. Now, when I look at the situation, everyone knows for the most part who the author is, although I can't recall his name. But he was responding to a call saying that someone was peering inside of a home. He didn't know if the guy lived there or not. The only thing he had to do was just to present his ID and said, I live here. Now, of course, you're going to be offended by that because you know that I live in this house. And you're coming to me and you want me to give you ID to prove that I live here. And coming from a black man, from a police officer, you're probably going to think, how dare you? This is insulting. But to diffuse the situation, because clearly he didn't know who you were, sir, all you had to do was just to present your ID. But what did Barack Obama do? He blew it out of proportion. And then we ended up having a Beergate summit with the three men coming together and talking about it. All Obama had to do was just to come out and say, look, the police are here to protect and to serve. They're black police officers. And when a black police officer does something wrong, what do they say? Oh, well, it's systemic. It's embedded in the culture. So no one ever wants to address the issue is that, police officers are human beings just like we are. And they want to go home to be with their families at the end of the day. If you're stopped by a police officer, listen to what he has to say, allow him to assess the situation, and then you can go on your merry little way. And if you felt that you were mistreated, file a complaint while you're alive. Don't lose your life over something that's not worth it. By God, wake up, people. Come on.
Absolutely, Rob. I could not have said it better. Earlier today, it broke that there was two more police officers shot in Arkansas.
Yes.
Still news and details coming out of that story. It's just another tragic example of the disrespect and insubordinates to police officers these days.
Absolutely. And I'm from Arkansas, and I heard that. It took place, I think, in Forest City. And I'm like, are you serious? Police officers shot again? It's like, police officers' lives matter. When someone is breaking in your home, who do you call? You call the police officers. You don't call the drug dealer. It's like there has to be more respect for police officers. Again, I know that there are some bad cops that are out there, but there are also bad politicians who make bad decisions and bad laws. And clearly, Bill de Blasio and Governor Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, are two such politicians who have created an environment whereby things aren't working the way they should. And this has to stop.
Absolutely. One more quick thing before we sign off that I wanted to ask you about was you've been following this entire coronavirus story, and it seems like the numbers spiked once again yesterday. Sounds like just hundreds of people are dying over in China.
Yeah.
The Olympics were actually supposed to be set there for the summer. What do you think of the coronavirus so far? Do you think it's something that Americans should be worried about just yet?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you reminded me that the Olympics, Summer Olympics, are supposed to take place there. I think we need to scratch it. Mm-hmm. I think that China is being very deceptive. They're not giving us the full story. I do believe, and I could be wrong, that China manufactured this for whatever reason, and it got out of control. I mean, to have it in a small town or province in China, and then it starts to spread, and then you have people coming to different parts of the world spreading the same virus. I mean, we got to wake up. And I know that President Trump said that he's spoken to President Xi and, he's saying, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I don't trust the man, just like I didn't trust him with the trade deal. I think he's mad because we have the upper hand with trade. And the same way they hide their currency as to what's really going on in their economy, I think they're hiding this. And it's very interesting that the doctor who was trying to sound the alarm about this recently died over the weekend. There's more to this story than what we're being told. And I would tell people to protect yourselves. I would not travel to China. When they recently had here in New York, they had the Chinese New Year. I didn't go, and I usually go every year. Because just like clockwork, you'll always have someone who's who has a cough and thinking, oh, I'll be okay. Then they come out coughing in the public, not covering their mouths, and then everyone else gets infected. Everyone else is sick. It's like, come on, show a little respect. If you're sick, and if you were in China, or if you were around someone who was infected, don't assume it's okay, because it's not okay. You are a threat to the rest of us. And I think that wherever it is here, it needs to be contained. That being said, again, the Summer Olympics in China, it needs to be pulled. Because we can't afford to allow our athletes to go there and them telling us, oh, it's contained, it's quarantined. Then the next thing you know, someone who was quarantined decides, oh, I'm going to go to the Olympics, and then start coughing, and then people are affected, and then it comes here, and then it starts to spread. I'm told that it's more dangerous than SARS, which took place about 2 decades ago. We can't afford this. And I don't know if it's airborne. I see a lot of people in New York, believe it or not, wearing these masks. I've tried wearing a mask. I can't breathe. I don't know how doctors do it. But that being said, I think that we can exercise precaution. And I think one of the things is we need to make certain that people that are coming from China, quarantine them. Make certain that they're tested. Because it's very dangerous.
Mm-hmm. I would have liked to, I attended a Democrat event we were covering last week with Ilhan Omar. I raised my hand for a question and she didn't pick me, but I was going to ask her what she would do about the corona, or she was actually campaigning for Bernie Sanders. I was going to ask her, with the Democrats' constant want for open borders, what would the Democrats do to limit a situation like the coronavirus? It just seems like open borders would be a nightmare.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because see, that's another threat right there with the open border. I mean, how do we know these people aren't going into Mexico or someone who was there and spreading this disease? I mean, I do believe that this was manufactured by China. And with the open border, borderless country that the Democrats want, because they're looking at, oh, borderless, everyone can vote. It's like, but then you don't have a country. If everyone is voting in your country, you can have people coming from Russia. Since they're so afraid of Russia, how do you know that Russians aren't coming in and they're not voting to control the votes? I mean, these people are complete idiots. When you stop and think about it, it's like, folks, think. A borderless country, giving everyone a driver's license or identity cards and then pushing them out to vote, you could potentially have huge blocks coming from Russia, coming from China, coming from Iran or wherever else, and then voting in your election. How do we know how Ilhan Omar was elected? And then you look around out there and you see a lot of other Muslims that have I don't want to say infiltrated, but they're in parts of the government Some of them, rightfully so. Some of them don't have that crazy mindset. But those who are in parts of government, branches of government, that have these crazy ideas, I wonder, how were they elected? I don't know how this woman was elected in Minnesota or Michigan, as far as Rashid Tlaib. How were they elected? Did they have a huge enough block to vote for them? Or were the votes infiltrated? I mean, these are questions that I always ask. And if you ask, people will say, oh my God, you're Islamophobic, you're xenophobic, you're thisophobic, you're that. Well, okay, I will be phobic or whatever you want to call me, because I think that is a major concern. We need to know who is voting. And if we have to go to voter ID, I know the Constitution gives us all the right to vote, but everyone can get a freaking ID. If we have illegal aliens coming over here getting an ID to drive, getting an ID to get government assistance, why in the heck can a black person in South Carolina or backwoods Georgia get an ID to vote? If you're 100 years old right now, if you're in Georgia and you're South Carolina and you're black, you would have gotten an ID years ago. So don't come telling me this crap about I can't get an ID. Because if you're getting public assistance, you have an ID. Folks, wake the heck up.
Yes.
It's all a ruse.
It would be interesting if this coronavirus starts spreading into poorer countries like India and South America, where they don't have the medical means to even limit it at all. If some of the liberal Democrats, even some of the Congress, might change their tune on the open borders policy.
I don't know. I doubt it seriously. I mean, when you have Joe Manchin, who knows that he should have voted not to convict, changing his mind, I question. I mean, he votes out of expediency when he feels that it's safe, because he doesn't want a Republican, because he's in a Republican district and he doesn't want them to vote him out. Now I think they should. But going back to what you said, I think that if the virus were to enter some of these poor countries, and I've heard that they have seen it, that it's there in small cases. It is there. I don't think it would change their mind, because I think right now, if we were to find out that it's in Mexico and the poor areas, they would still want people coming across the border, because they're just that ignorant and stupid. And it's scary.
Just reminded me of one more story we could talk about real fast. Jorge Ramos actually did an editorial about how Mexico is now our border wall, he says. He's very upset that Mexico's National Guard is now doing all they can to keep immigrants out. It sounds like he is admitting to another President Trump win without even realizing what he's saying.
And rightfully so. I mean, these guys, I would not be allowed to go to Mexico and set up shop and just say, hey, I'm just going to sit back and I'm going to live off the government. So they shouldn't be either. Now, Andy, just two more things if we have time, I want us to mention. I want to talk about the Oscars, which I didn't watch, bits and pieces. But before we go there, I want to talk about Gayle King.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about the Gayle King. I don't know if you saw my article on magAMedia.org about it.
Yes. So I want to talk about it. Okay, so here's the thing. For one, I think that Gayle King is an opportunist. Okay, she and Oprah Winfrey, but hey, to each his own. But last week, Gayle King stepped into a pit fire when she had one of Kobe Bryant's friends, a female black woman. She was talking to her about Kobe Bryant and, this whole thing with his legacy, he's dead and whatnot. And if she felt that Kobe Bryant, what was the follow-up from Kobe Bryant raping this woman back in 2003? Now, personally, it is a fair question. I'm sorry, let me take that back. It is fair to bring it up because that is part of who Kobe Bryant is. What isn't fair is the way she brought it up as if though she was trying to relitigate the case. A journalist myself who went to journalism school, I am aware that my actions have consequences. And whatever I write, people are going to challenge me on it, and rightfully so. And sometimes people are passionate. And sometimes, they become so passionate they might make, empty threats. Do I think that Gayle is being threatened? Absolutely not. Because if she were, or if the threats were serious, the FBI would be involved. Are the FBI involved? No. So I think this is fabricated by she and Oprah just to garner, people to feel sorry for her. Now, that being said, what Gayle should have done, if she wanted to bring it up, she should have said, okay, Lisa Leslie, we are aware that back in 2003, Kobe Bryant was alleged that he raped a young woman. This is part of his legacy. Later on, he was found not guilty, and the case was squashed, and they moved on. That was it. But what does Gail do? She queries her. She goes, do you think he did it? Clearly, Lisa Leslie was uncomfortable. And she said, well, no. Gail, well, how do you know? Well, he's my friend, and I've never seen him do anything like that. Well, how do you know? He's your friend. All the more reason you're not going to think he would do something like that, because he is your friend. And if I were Lisa Leslie sitting in that chair, my response to her would have been, oh, really? You got a point. Just like people think that Oprah is a mean-ass bitch. Do you think she's a mean-ass bitch? And do you think that she finishes people's sentences? And do you think that she's arrogant and that she wants it her way or the highway? And if Gail would have responded, well, no, because she's my friend. You're right, Gail. You wouldn't know, because you're riding her coattail to success. So you're not going to see that what other people see. So in my opinion, what Gail is going through, people are feeling sorry for her. No, she's a grown woman. She's a journalist. If she had been a man and had stepped in it, do you think we would have sympathy for the man? Heck no. They would say, hey, it happened. And then he would have to live it out. So because women want to be equal like men, I say to Gail, put on your big woman panties, own it, live up to it. You made a mistake. Okay? Because there was a way you should have asked the question, as opposed to trying to relitigate the case. It's part of his legacy. Simple as that. Go ahead.
Very fair points, Rob. I think it's kind of ironic that I do feel like the questions might have been in poor taste by Gayle King.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the Democrats can see what the hate is like, because they constantly go at President Trump for never even touching a woman, just making a joke about grabbing a pussy. They act like he's some kind of rapist, and it's just hypocrites. He's unbelievable.
Absolutely, absolutely. So everyone, please read Andrew's article on magAMedia.org for more insight on this. But, I wanted to talk about it because so many people have been opining and saying, we're tearing Gail down. And not only that, that Susan Rice, Barack Obama's, she was ambassador to the UN. She came out with some strong words to Snoop Doggy Dogg, telling him to, F off. I won't say the word here just in case your kids that are watching this, but I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And this is not the first time Susan Rice, or dear Susan Rice, have used such strong words. She used it for Lindsey Graham also, when she told him the same thing. Lindsey Graham should F off. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought she was supposed to be this little gentle woman, but she's not so gentle, because if we all know, she probably started this whole buy some water. But hey, that's a topic for another discussion, another time.
Yeah. Reminds me of the Beto O'Rourke campaign with all the cursing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, what about the Oscars? The Oscars, yes.
I was very disappointed in Brad Pitt's speech, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I was a pretty big Brad Pitt fan of his movies and his roles, and he just went... It's kind of surprising, because I know he hangs out with Kanye West. He goes to a lot of his gospel things. So, yeah, I was kind of surprised that Brad Pitt took the position that all of a sudden he needs to be political, and he's alienated half his fan base.
Well, I'm like off and on with Brad Pitt. I do believe that he's a good actor. He's a good character actor. I think as he's aged, because of the things he's gone through, drinking and whatnot, it looks a bit on the rough side. But I would say Brad should be seen and not heard unless he's being heard on the movie screen. And to go that route with, President 45, that's more time than they gave John Bolton to testify. I got to keep telling people, and you got to wake up and listen. John Bolton had every opportunity, or the Congress had every opportunity, to subpoena John Bolton to testify when this matter was in the House. Why didn't they do it? Taking it to the Senate is not the time or the place for him to testify. You don't have witnesses there. They could have called all the witnesses in the world when it was in the House. Why didn't they? Why didn't Chuck Schumer tell Nadler, Nancy Pelosi, and Schiff, subpoena John Bolton and everyone else, subpoena everyone in the White House? Why didn't they? What would have happened is President Trump would have said, no, executive privilege. Then they would have taken it to court. But to come out and say, oh, well, they didn't do it in the Senate is ridiculous. For Mitt Romney to say, I want to hear them testify is ridiculous. Folks, you're being had. They're treating you as if though you don't know how the government works. Even now, if John Bolton wants to testify, if he wants to do an interview, let him do it. He's written a book. Okay? He'll probably have something in the book to that effect. I don't know. I'm not going to read his book because I think he should cut off that mustache. It looks kind of stupid. Okay, but again, he can talk to whomever he wants to talk. But I would say this, I would couch it with this. If he opens his mouth, or if he says in the book that something inappropriate or nefarious took place with President Trump, and that he was trying to pressure the Ukrainian leader to investigate Joe Biden, run the tape with John Bolton saying nothing nefarious took place. He did what he had to do. The conversation was perfect. Just run the tape side by side. When he's lying, just run the tape. Don't forget about the tape. I have the tape. If he comes out and says something otherwise, I will retweet it again because I've already tweeted it before. In addition to John Bolton saying that there was nothing wrong with the conversation, Mr. Brad Pitt, you should also remember that he spoke to Judge Napolitano. And what did John Bolton say? He said that he would lie to protect the country. He would lie to frame a story. So do we believe him then? Or do we believe him now, or when he's going to release his book? So I say to Brad Pitt, stick to making movies. Try to re-engage with Jennifer Aniston. I think you guys were a lovely couple. She's single now. Angelina Jolie, she's, nutty. Go back to Jennifer Aniston. Maybe you guys can make babies or set up house. But as far as politics, no one wants to hear what you guys think. Do you even vote? Be a doer and not a talker. Go out there, help the homeless. Because I even heard that those houses that you were building in New Orleans after the Hurricane Katrina, they're falling apart. Look into taking care of that. But as far as giving us political advice, no thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
No thanks at all.
I think Brad's been on a little bit too much of the weed from what I've heard. Speaking of which, how about Joaquin Phoenix's speech about cows and how inhumane it is to take them and then milk them and then we drink the milk and all this other crap. He got endorsed by PETA after his speech, at least, I guess, if that's what he was going for.
I think that he's a great actor. I enjoy watching him. I will always go back to the movie he made, I think, in the 1995 or 96 with Nicole Kidman, To Die For. To me, that was his breakout role. I don't know if you saw it, Andy, but it was superb. I love that movie. He should have been nominated for an Oscar. Now, fast forward. I haven't seen The Joker. I heard that it was a good movie.
It was a very good film.
I got to see it. I liked him. I also liked him in the movie with Russell Crowe, Gladiator. I liked him in that. So I think that he's a good actor. I will eventually see The Joker. But as far as giving me advice on politics, again, save it for your girlfriend. Save it for your group of friends. I don't want to hear it from you. I'm not going to even listen to you. I'm not going to even take you seriously. Okay, this is part of a big push that the left is doing to try and, get people to stop eating meat. We should all eat plants. Meat is bad for you. We shouldn't drink milk. And we shouldn't do this. Before long, we shouldn't eat plants. And if you recall some time ago, we discussed this NYU professor, Joshua Spodek, and I think it's Spodek, and him talking about, living his values and how he doesn't push things like that on people. He doesn't eat meat. He only eats plant-based foods, but he's not going to push on someone else. And that's what I would say.
It seems like it's propaganda to get people ready for the Green New Deal.
Exactly. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. So with him coming out there saying that, I think did he endorse Bernie Sanders? I can't remember, but him coming out saying, that, we're milking the cows and it's not fair. I guess we should get a permission slip from the cow. Dear Mr. Cow or Mrs. Cow, are you okay with me milking you so that I can give your milk to my newborn child? Just want to know. Please sign here. And then I guess the cow's supposed to respond with the 2 moos, yes, 1 moo, no. Folks, come on. The same thing with meat. I don't particularly like beef, I guess because I can't make a steak. But I'm not going to push that on you and say, you can't eat steak because you're killing that cow and that cow doesn't want to be killed. And this and that. It's like, come on, time out. We got to stop this. We got to stop it. Okay. If you want to eat chicken, if you want to eat pork, go for it. That's what it was breeded for. Okay.
Not everyone's into soy lattes.
Right. Oh my God. And man, stay away from soy. Okay. We got the knucklehead up in Canada who's Mr. Soy King. No, everyone's not into that stuff. So it's like in moderation, if a person wants to do it, let them without trying to make them feel guilty about it. It's like, come on. So I would say to Joker Phoenix, go make Joker too, but don't get on stage trying to tell me about, oh, don't milk the cow because it's not fair. And she don't want you pulling on her and she don't, oh, come on, stop.
Did you see that Billy Porter's outfit yesterday? He had
Okay.
a gold sparkly shirt complete with a huge gown with it looked like dragons all over it. It was interesting to say the least.
I saw him in a play once here in New York City, and he can really sing. He has a great voice. I also ran into him at a gym that I work out at, and at the time he was more masculine looking. Now he looks emaciated. Looks like he's trying to, I don't know, look like a woman. I don't know. But
it wouldn't take much to look more masculine than he did last night.
Right. But that outfit, a friend sent it to me. I'm like, are you serious? He pulled the same thing during the Golden Globes. Now, to each his own. I don't care what your sexuality is, but clearly I think that Billy Porter is trying to push an agenda. Not only Billy Porter, but I think not too long ago, what's the guy's name? Pharrell came out. He was on the cover of a magazine in some big balloon dress. John Legend wore some type of skirt dress. There's this guy from Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. He is always seen on the red carpet in dresses. Now, back in the day, biblical times, men wore sarongs. Okay. I'm okay with that. I have no beef with that. But what's happening today with the colorful and the sparkles and all of this other stuff, it's as if though it's being pushed in our faces. Men wearing heels. I saw it in the airport once. There was a Goldman Sachs executive or Charles Schwab executive retrieving his luggage in shorts and pumps. Now, from what I hear from women, it is very difficult wearing heels. It's not comfortable at all. But you have a certain set of men who, want to defy the odds and I'm going to put on heels. They're trying to make a point. They're pushing this in our face. So I would say to Billy Porter, it's not something that I would wear. I definitely don't want to tell you what to wear. But would it have been nice had you put on a very nice tuxedo? Maybe with a gold shirt. That would have been so nice, and you could have been making a point by saying, look, I'm gay, but I don't have to dress that way. I don't have to try to make a statement, because what statement are you trying to make? Are you just trying to get attention? I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just the timing and what we see and what's being pushed out there to our kids. Yes, we have our brothers and sisters who are gay, they're straight. Some would say they're bisexual. But when they start going down the hill with, I'm a trying, I'm a flying, I'm a this, the buck stops here, okay? Because when you're born with a penis or vagina. And if you've never seen it, let me encourage you to go to the bathroom, pull down your pants, or raise up your dress, and look. Get a mirror and look. And if you see something that's long there, you are a male. If you don't see that, you're a female. Let's stop trying to confuse people, because we want to do these experiments and say, oh, well, no, I'm a this or I'm a that. Oh, I don't know what I am. Wrong. And if you're confused and if you need help, I will volunteer and I will go with you and I'll tell you what you see, okay? But let's stop all this nonsense. If you're gay, be glad, be proud. If you're lesbian, be glad, be proud. But this other stuff that's being pushed just for attention, I'm sorry, folks, it's wrong. Mm-hmm. It's simply wrong.
It's part of the left's moral decay of society.
Of identity politics that they themselves can't even keep up with.
Yes, the flamboyantness, it's like, as you said, it's just to push it on children. The LGBT, I seen some things where they were bragging the other day that there's more children that come out as gay than ever before in America. Well, you wonder why when that's crap like that on television constantly.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is, they say there's more children that are coming out. There are more kids that are coming out that are confused because their parents are pushing this on them.
Absolutely.
I did an article, and I think Melissa did Lazy Meatball did an article about this one lady who was trying to say that her son was he was gay. He wanted to be a little girl. When in actuality, she was trying to push that on him. I mean, when kids are born and when they're growing up, they don't know if they're male or female. But as time goes by, they intuitively they know that, hey, I'm a boy and I'm a girl. But we have people in society who are educated that are trying to push something different by telling their kids, oh no, am I a little boy? Well, do you think you're a little boy? Oh, you can be a little girl if you want to be a little girl. And then this whole thing with
hormone treatments.
Well, hormone treatments, which is wrong. And then this whole thing with color. I see a lot. I mean, me personally, I have a pink shirt. I see nothing wrong with pink. I have pink socks. I have pink underwear. I see nothing wrong with it. But you have the left trying to push the pink to say that, hey, if you're a man, you better wear a pink scrubs. You better wear a pink uniform when you're playing basketball or when you're playing football. That is so wrong, because if pink is just a neutral color, why are you trying to push it that way? I mean, this has got to stop. We've got to stop. And that is the reason why I support Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a level-minded person, and he sees what's happening. No, he's not homophobic. No, he's not xenophobic. Okay. But what he does see is that he sees this weird scientific project that's being pushed on us, that's taking place, that is going to ultimately be our demise, and we've got to stop it.
Absolutely. Just kind of odd how the left is all about accepting all this LGBT community stuff, but then we seen that meme of President Trump that was probably photoshopped of his tan. Did you see that, where President Trump tweeted it out, where his tan was messed up? And yeah, the left just made fun of the guy for days on that. It's just
absolutely right. And if
it shows their true character.
Their true character, and if they say that, you know, there's nothing wrong with it, why would they, if you recall back when he was elected the first 2 years, they had a picture of him and Putin kissing each other. I'm like, okay, but I thought you said that was okay. So I would think that you wouldn't want to put that out in a negative fashion, but they weren't putting it out to celebrate, you know, same-sex marriages or whatnot. They were putting it out to make fun of him. So then I would say to my fellow LGBTQ community, why aren't you guys pushing back on this? This is so wrong. If you're telling us there's nothing wrong with it, then why are you allowing them to make fun of it? Why are you allowing them to make fun of the president? That is so wrong. And now, speaking of the president, just the other day, yesterday, they stopped a potential person around the White House grounds who had a knife, saying that he was going to go in and harm the president. Now, see, these are the things that the president encounters probably on a daily basis. And the media.
There was that lady who drove through the gate at Mar-a-Lago that got arrested.
Exactly. And the media, they behave as if though it's okay because it was President Trump. And we don't care about President Trump. Had it been Barack Obama, they would have been doing 12 different stories about it. I'm like, again, folks, you got to wake up. You don't have to like Donald Trump. And maybe to you, he's a bit crude. Maybe he's not polished. Maybe he says things that you wouldn't say. But you know what I would say to you? Look at what he's doing and what he has done and what he continues to do. Going back to the State of the Union address, a lot of the left, they were mad because they say that he was pandering to black voters. Well, heck, if that's what it takes, do it, because he should get the black vote. A friend of mine sent me some statistics, some numbers saying that a large majority of black men support Donald Trump, whereas black women don't. And I'm like, why do you think that is? Well, I'll tell you why it is. Because a lot of these black women, they want to water down men. So they don't like the fact that these men are thinking for themselves. And speaking along those same lines, there's another journalist. Her name is Karine something. She's almost always on MSNBC. She's black. And she made the comment, I think earlier today, in relationship to the Gayle King story, as to how she protected Kamala Harris when Kamala was being accosted by someone on stage. And I remember that clip, and I think I tweeted about it. But today she was saying that, you know, it's really sad. And she tweeted about this, and I responded to her. She said that there's no one out there to protect the black women. So in essence, what she's saying is that the black man is useless. He can't protect the black woman. And in the same voice, what they will point back to is they'll say, the black man, they're weak. Well, are you saying the black men are weak because of Billy Porter? He's wearing a dress? Is that as a reason why the black man can't protect the black women? So there's so many different sides that when people are putting things out there, you got to stop and say, wait a minute, what are you saying? You're saying that you have to protect Kamala Harris because there was no black man to protect them? Well, maybe you should tell Billy Porter, Billy, take up your skirt and your heels so that you can protect us black women. But you don't see that story. And that is the reason why I say the left, they're so confused with this entire identity politics. They don't know where they're going with it, but they keep putting it out there. This is a bunch of rubbish. It's confusing. Sometimes I don't know what's up and what's down. Like the other day when I heard that men can have periods, I'm thinking, wait, did I miss something? Did I miss that in biology? Is it that I could have a period and I didn't? Oh, to find out what they were talking about was that they had a little girl who was converting over because her mom or her dad decided to pump her up with hormones to make her look like a boy, but she still had her female sex organs. So when she would go to school, they were telling her, oh, it's okay, you're a little boy, but little boys have periods also. Wrong. She's still a little girl no matter how you try to change it. Okay? So this is a nonsense that kids are enduring in school. And can you imagine if you had a 5-year-old or 6-year-old or 7-year-old, they're hearing this and they're thinking, wait a minute, what are you saying? So they're teaching them at a young age that boys can have periods so that when they reach the age of puberty, they'll say, oh yeah, boys can have puberty, boys can have periods. It is so wrong. This has got to stop, folks. We got to stop it because it's confusing. You're going to have a generation of kids that are so confused. They're going to be on pills because they're stressed out. And you're going to have a huge population of kids that are committing suicide. It's got to stop.
Yep, that's a big part of the Hollywood and Oscars culture for sure, is all the lunacy that they're pushing on children. Well, Rob, I appreciate you sitting down today. Thanks for having another great episode. We'll see you again later this week or perhaps early next week.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Rob.
Terrific. Great meeting.
Yeah.
Let me know when